Hey, welcome back. Eric Arnold here in the Politics Barn, Tuesday afternoon, September 23rd. What's been going on since our last video? Where did we leave off? Well, apparently the Democrats have discovered the First Amendment, that there is something called the First Amendment. They've never known it was there before because they've always had their First Amendment rights. Always. No one's ever told them they couldn't speak because when they speak, they're speaking the correct way, the woke way, the communist way. When we speak, that's wrong think, wrong speak. So we're punished and have been punished harshly. Well, lo and behold, we actually won an election. So now suddenly, these guys aren't totally in power anymore. And it's time for their ox to be gored. So Jimmy Kimmel tossed off the air by ABC last Wednesday, about a week ago. You'll have to ask ABC why he was taken off the air. I believe it was because he blatantly lied about the assassination, inferring that the shooter was MAGA. And of course, the shooter is the opposite of MAGA. He's a left-wing, trans-loving idiot. The complete opposite. And Kimmel knew that. But he went out there anyway because, that's what he does. He's just out there to stir up trouble and lie to his audience and get them to believe that the left wing are the good guys. They're not. So, apparently now, ABC has decided to put him back on the air. Why the change? Well, ABC, owned by Disney, they think exactly the way Kimmel does. There's no daylight between Kimmel's positions and Disney's positions. And you're saying, why did they take him off the air to begin with? Well, I think there was some heat coming down on them from their affiliates, the people they put their programming to, individual TV stations throughout the country. They were pushing back saying, this is not what we want. We don't want this content. Furthermore, we're getting heat also from the government that this is not right. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Trump government did not apply some pressure. I think they did. I think the FCC, he made public comments to the effect that, what were his exact words? The easy way or the hard way, inferring that you can either take them off the air yourselves or we're going to take them off the air. So the affiliates saying, I don't want to be get crossways with the FCC, and this Kimmel guy really isn't a big part of our programming. So we just won't take his content anymore. We'll just show something else at 11:30. Now, what's changed? Well, I guess the left has freaked out, over the cancellation to Jimmy Kimmel. They have threatened violently shooting up an ABC station in Sacramento. What do you mean shooting up? Well, a guy took a gun and shot three shots into the TV station. To me, that's considered shooting up the station. The implication clear that I'm just shooting a physical building right now. You don't do what we want. Next time, you'll end up like Charlie Kirk. That's the implication. So Disney, I think, is trying to walk the line here. It wants to continue to put out the anti-Trump message. It wants to make its consumers, the leftist, Marxist communists, happy. So they're going to put Kimmel back on the air. And they're big enough that they could take on the Trump administration and the FCC. So I don't think they're really worried about that. So they're just going to say, we're going to put him back on the air. What will you get out of Kimmel? I can't imagine you're going to get anything other than the worst of him. that he's just going to double down and say things that are more inflammatory than ever. If you give him an apology, he won't mean it. I guess if he just suddenly removes political content from his show, I guess that'd be a win for us, just in that remember, we're trying to get some of these people that watch the Kimmel show to come over to our side. And it's damn hard when they're being brainwashed 24/7 by the likes of Jimmy Kimmel. So, that's why if he would suddenly just be a comedian again, he was a comedian at one point. Does anyone remember the Man Show? And what's funny is Jimmy Kimmel did some of the most non-politically correct stuff at the time. The Juggy Girls? Come on. I don't know what happened to this guy. If he just decided that his career trajectory would be so much more effective if he just became a woke idiot. Because that's all he is now, is a woke clown. He's not funny. When you make fun of half the country continually, consistently, and it's not even making fun, it's ridiculing them, belittling them. Jay Leno called it one time, he said he's mean. And I thought that's exactly right. His comedy is not funny, it's mean. And I agree with that. So I don't know what you're going to get out of Kimmel. I don't really care. Again, when I said on my first time around last episode, I probably wouldn't have kicked him off the air to begin with. Go ahead, say whatever you want to say. I mean, you guys have lied repeatedly for the last, God knows, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And no one's ever taken you off the air before, so why is this lie so pernicious that we have to kick you off? But we did. I guess Trump just decided, I'm drawing a line right here. This is bullshit. This is one of the biggest political events that's happened since Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, and you're not going to lie about it. You're not going to go out to your audience and just say something that is blatantly not true. So that's what I think happened. Now the affiliates are still keeping them off. So they're still holding to their positions that, go ahead, put them on. But I would say half. In other words, ABC at 11:30 tonight is going to show the Jimmy Kimmel show. Half, I'm taking a guess. I don't know how many stations Nexstar and Sinclair control, but they are not showing, those two big companies that control dozens and dozens and dozens of ABC stations, are not showing it. For example, I looked it up. Here in Philadelphia, WPVI, they'll have it on. They're not one of those two affiliated with one of them two companies. But in Harrisburg, they won't show it. In Altoona, they won't show it. In Erie, they won't show it. So probably it's most of the ABC stations not in huge cities that are probably saying, this is not what our people want to see. Our customers are probably wearing red hats more than blue hats, and they do not want this content. And we don't want this content. It's not helping us. The ratings are not good. People don't want to watch it. And we're getting all kind of heat from the government for showing it. Back to the FCC. There are rules in the FCC rules there. In other words, free speech, I think, should be much closer to absolute than limited. That being said, they didn't ask me before they made the rules up. And the FCC actually does have some rules there that these public stations are supposed to have some kind of balance. And the late night shows, there's no balance whatsoever. I mean, you can't find any kind of critical comments about the Democrats. They never have on any kind of a center right-wing guest to espouse their points of view. That just doesn't happen, ever. So there's no balance there. I've been listening I've been listening to more politics since the assassination. And I guess the question is, where do we go from here? I think we're all on our side of the aisle, united in that we got to keep at it. We got to keep going. We got to not give up. We have to win. We got to try to do everything we can to keep these little Marxist commies from taking power, who are getting more and more frightening by the day. You look at the Squad and listen to what they have to say. That's that Omar chick out of Minnesota who's been an American for like half an hour, if she's an American at all. I think she married her brother to become an American and seems not the least bit embarrassed about it. Ocasio-Cortez out of the Bronx, she's a little commie twit. These are the mainstream now of Democrat thought. They're going to elect this Mondani up in New York City. He's an admitted communist. It's like, wow, you guys are just coming right out and just admitting it. That's a bold strategy there. Brave strategy there. But they might be right. Maybe that's where Bernie Sanders was at. He's basically just running around saying, well, it's time we just have some good old-fashioned communism. And then you'd ask him the obvious questions like, well, what are we going to do about current property rights and people own things now, and how are we going to pay for all that? And he never had an answer, because there is no answer other than physical force. That's how you pay for everybody gets everything they want all the time, anytime. You have to take it from the people that have that stuff. They're not just going to hand it over to you. You have to physically take it from them. That's the part Bernie Sanders never says out loud. So where do we go to keep these bastards out of power? Now, I'm starting to come around to a pessimistic conclusion on this. Immediately after the Kirk assassination, everybody said the same thing, I think. Except me. I was kind of like, I don't want to say that. Well, it's going to happen again. This is going to get worse. Oh, yeah. Going to get much worse. And I'm thinking, is it? I'm kind of thinking everybody's probably right. Already the heat, the anger, the just raw energy, most of it sad and anger on our side, it's already fading. We got 200,000 people that physically showed up for Charlie Kirk's funeral, and that was great. But, are we going to win these elections that are coming up here in less than 8 weeks? Yeah, it's less than 8 weeks. I think most of you don't even know there are elections. There are very important elections coming up here. In Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court is on the ballot. Those bastards, those sons of bitches that sat there and said, why, yes, the government is allowed to do whatever it wants if it declares an emergency, and you don't have any rights, and get used to your new normal. Those bastards that thought that was a good use of the law, they're on the ballot. And we could throw them all the hell out of the Supreme Court if we simply show up. We're not going to show up. Let's face it. We're simply not going to show up. I don't see any heat here in PA to storm the ballot boxes and kick these commie judges out. No, it's going to go like it always does. They sit there in an off-year election. Republicans stay home. For the most part, that's just human nature, is a body at rest tends to stay at rest. That's one of Newton's 3 laws. It's a true law. It applies in this case. In other words, those ancient communists are sitting in the hot court in Harrisburg. Absent any other action, they're going to stay there. They're going to sit there. They're not moving. They're not going anywhere. We have to do something. We have to physically make an effort, a big effort to kick their useless asses out of there. We're not doing it. I can tell we're not doing it. I don't see any energy whatsoever on the ground here in Pennsylvania. I haven't seen one goddamn sign. One goddamn sign that says kick the sons of bitches out. You think there'd be all signs like that all over the place? Kick the sons of bitches out. You can use that, by the way, Republican Party of Pennsylvania. I'm not copywriting that. Kick the sons of bitches out. Kick the sons of bitches out. But we're not going to. We're not going to. Sadly, I think probably 10 to 25% of our voters don't even know they're there. They'll vote to keep them in. Just because it doesn't say they're communists on the ballot, it just says judge. And it doesn't say they're Democrats either. I'm pretty sure that's how the ballot reads. It just says, do you want to keep Judge Doherty? And now if it said, do you want to keep Judge Doherty committed communist? Then that person, that old person that goes in there might go, well, no, I don't, I'm not in favor of communists. But, you know, just Judge Doherty, I would bet half our party doesn't even know that he's a Democrat. So we've done nothing, as far as I can see, in the hard work to actually win elections. Now, you know, are we dead then for the midterms as well? You know, there's still more time to organize for that. That's yet to be seen. Another thing I saw today that made me pessimistic. Remember the guy that tried to kill Trump? I believe it was in September or October last year before the election. He hid in the bushes successfully at Trump's golf course at Mar-a-Lago and was waiting for Trump to come around on his little golf cart so he could shoot him with a rifle, a la Charlie Kirk. And somehow, by some miracle, the Secret Service agent saw him first, and they chased him off, and then ultimately caught him and arrested him. I believe his name is Ryan Cocksucker Routh. He was tried this week. He was put on trial this past week, and I guess today he was found guilty, so he's going to spend the rest of his days in jail where he belongs. And it wasn't even covered in the media, this trial. You know, our side didn't talk about it, their side didn't talk about it. This guy tried to kill Donald Trump, the most powerful man in the world, and we just quietly brushed it aside and went, yeah, it was just some guy, yeah. And I guess the FBI, all those questions we had about this guy, how did he get there? How did he know Trump was going to be there? You know, because this wasn't a scheduled event that Trump was going to be playing golf that day, so we all suspected there was an inside leak somewhere. Somebody tipped this guy off that Trump was going to play golf that morning. You know, where did all those leads go? I guess they all just turned up. Nope, he just, you know, guessed right that Trump would play golf that day, even though it's not on a schedule, and just happened to sit in the bushes for, what was it, something like 12 hours, undetected, until the actual party, golf party, came around the golf course. Nobody saw him, you know, no exterior sweeps of the perimeter by the Secret Service, none of that. He sat undetected in the bushes for like 12 hours. And we're not talking about any of that. We just quietly convicted the guy and sent him to jail with no fanfare. That leads me to believe that this is going to become normal, I sadly think. That these assassinations, I think, are going to happen again and again and again. And they're just going to be normalized, I almost think. And it's all going to be, you know, them shooting us. And we have to keep it that way. You know, I'll say this to anybody out there, you youngsters out there who might be viewing this video. I want to be clear. Don't do anything silly. By silly, I mean shoot any of them. Don't do it. You're not going to be a hero. You're not going to lead the charge and make everybody happy on our side because you shot one of the Democrats. you're going to be hated. You're going to be hated. You're going to be cut off. You're just going to be out. Everybody's going to hate you. Don't do it. It's not helpful. Not helpful at all. So, you got to, but, what we can't control is one of these left-wing commies shooting somebody and then claiming to be one of us. And, and of course, like that asshole who shot Charlie Kirk, if he had actually sat there and said, yeah, I hate Charlie Kirk because he's not right-wing enough, and kept up that, what's the word I'm looking for, facade, kept up that lie, oh my God, he wouldn't have to keep it up too hard because the media would just push it and push it and push it, and they wouldn't ask any questions, and the lie would become the truth. Somebody said that. I don't know if it was somebody like Churchill or Lincoln, that a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth even gets its boots on, or gets out of bed and gets its pants on. And that's exactly right. That you can tell a lie and it gets spread faster than you can believe before the truth even gets in first gear. So I worry about that sort of thing. I heard a man named Steve Deese speak. He's on our side. He's a right-wing podcaster. I believe he's from Iowa. He has a religious bent to where he's coming from. He and Steve Bannon, both these guys, I believe, are of the same opinion of what we do now. In other words, we're all kind of the same opinion that we got to fight these bastards, but how do we fight them? Well, they're ready to fight them hard and not be nice. They're not ready to just go shoot them in the streets, but they are ready to arrest them. Just round them up and start arresting those little bastards and, throwing them off the airwaves, which is essentially, not essentially, it is exactly what they did to us. Quick sidebar here. I saw that Google has written a letter to Jim Jordan's committee admitting Google. YouTube. Google owns YouTube. What platform are we on here in the barn? Google. YouTube. They admitted to Jim Jordan that they deplatformed conservatives over the past I don't know how many years because they were getting pressure from the Biden administration, largely over COVID and election talk, election interference talk. Well, we knew that, didn't we? I had 2 videos pulled down over my tenure here in the politics barn by those motherfucking cocksucking twits at YouTube. And they're now, I knew the government was leaning on them, but they didn't have to lean hard because it's just like Disney and Kimmel. There's no daylight between the positions of the Biden administration and Google. They're identical. So they wanted to deplatform me and people like me. They wanted to kick me out of here. And they took down 2 of my videos without explanation, without telling me what was the offending words that I said. They just pulled them down and said, you do that again, you're out altogether. Well, now I guess apparently Google, trying to make nice with the incoming administration, is saying, all right, we admit we did that, and we're going to reinstate or offer reinstatement to all those people we deplatformed. All that tells me is, I know you did it, you're admitting you did it, and the minute you think you can get away with it again, you're going to do it again. You're going to do it again. So I don't know, it's a win for us. That's a cat. New cat. Hello, new cat. No, we didn't get a new cat. The neighbor cat figured out that we're a soft touch for food and has moved in. So he lives here now, more or less. But anyway, so yeah, the censorship has always been there. Left censoring the right. The right has not censored the left Well, Steve Bannon wants to put an end to that. He wants to, what were his words? Maximalist power. He wants to utilize the power that we have while we have it to the maximum extent. I mean, I'm torn. You know, I see his argument that, well, then they're going to do it to us when we lose power. Yes, they're going to do it to us no matter what we do. No matter what we do. And ultimately, I think I was coming around to that way of thinking today, and I don't know why, but I just started feeling pessimistic. Sooner or later, these little bastards are going to get control. Sooner or later, we're going to be under communist rule again, just like we were under the Biden administration. And we'll be censored, we'll be hounded, we'll be audited, we'll be threatened, we'll be jailed. It'll all happen. It just will. And, you know, how are they going to get control? They're such an extreme minority. You know, one of their guys is going to be charismatic, will speak a good game, lie out of his ass, which will be amplified, and the lies will be covered up by the media, and we'll have a bad candidate. It's not really any more complicated than that. You know, we'll just have a candidate that nobody likes, that nobody trusts. The guy can't, you know, people say nobody likes Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a great politician. Donald Trump has built a movement of people in this country that love him. Certain candidates are just unable to do that sort of thing. I think of perhaps of Ted Cruz. I love Ted Cruz. I love his positions. He doesn't have an army of people behind him that love him. He's just another politician. Unfortunately, the number of Donald Trumps compared to the number of Ted Cruz's, you got like one Trump and 20 Cruz's. So that's my fear, is that at some point, you know, obviously Donald Trump is going to step off the stage due to Father Time. And then if we get a bad candidate, well, then we're going to lose. You know, a John McCain, a Mitt Romney, bad candidates, hey, we're going to lose. And then we're going to be in the minority, and they're going to kick the living shit out of us. And then we'll just be that further down the road towards actual open civil war. I haven't quite game planned out how the Civil War is going to break out, but I do kind of think we're closer to it right now than I think we have been since like 1858. It's kind of, I kind of think it's going to happen. I can't tell you right this second, well, this is going to happen, then that's going to happen, then this over here is going to happen, and then you're going to get arrested, or your neighbor's going to get shot, or whatever. I can't quite see the future there, but I don't see us coming together. You know, the only way we come together is those Democrats that aren't insane come towards our side, and they hate Trump so much they just can't bring themselves to do it. So they'll, you know, the Charlie Kirk thing, they'll look at that and go, well, that was bad, but boy, it's so much easier for me to just say, well, he said me, I was told he said bad things, so that's so much easier for me to hang my hat on. Well, he kind of asked for it, you know, that kind of thing. And he didn't ask for it at all. All he did was sell our side of the argument. And if you think so little of your fellow Americans that you don't think they're allowed to speak their mind and sell their ideas too, like your people sell your ideas, you really don't think much of your fellow neighbors and Americans. So there's way too many of these people in this country, and there's no reasoning with them. There's no reasoning with them. That's where I think, you know, this has made it clear that, remember that pie chart I had on the board there for so long, where I broke down the populace by percentages, and I had pinned evil at 15%. I kind of think it might be 20%. It's these polls that have come out after the Kirk assassination, where people just self-identify themselves as evil. You know, Are you happy Charlie Kirk's dead? Hell yeah. Okay, well, thank you for putting yourself in the evil slice so we know where you are. Way too many of these people. 15, 20% of the country is just flat evil. That's a lot. That's a lot. Man. And what do you do there? Is there a way to deprogram them, to unbrainwash them? I don't think so. I think these people are flat evil. They were just born bad and got bigger, got older, and we're stuck with them. These people could be your neighbor, they could be your teachers, they could be a police officer, they could be your elected officials. There's no telling. That's such a huge percentage, 1 out of 5. You're walking around, you're walking down the street, and you're thinking, is that an evil person? Is that an evil person? Is that, if I get attacked right now by multiple people, is that guy just going to whip out his cell phone and start recording, or is he going to try to help? Be cynical, and you know the answer to that is probably he's going to whip out his cell phone. But you never know. Again, 1 out of 5, that doesn't mean a majority. So I'm feeling, even my own energy to make these videos is flagging. It's kind of like, all right, what happened today? Well, nothing much. I mean, where's the news? Kash Patel says, we are exhausting every lead, following every crumb of evidence, turning over every rock, and finding nothing, apparently, because the story is just dying. It's like, what have you found? We know this kid was being encouraged. We know this kid, I think it's clear he had help. What are you finding? And I guess he's finding nothing, or nothing he can prove, which is a loss for our side. I told you that we have to win. Whatever we do has to be approved of by the court of public opinion. So if we bring in a whole bunch of little bastards and charge them with crimes, we have to have the evidence that the American population is going to say, that's bad. We should punish that guy. That's bad. Well, I guess he can't find any evidence. So I guess all these little bastards just are evil shits and are happy Charlie Kirk's dead, but weren't actively collaborating to help this cocksucking little gay twit shoot him. I don't know, I guess I'm just a little depressed at the moment where I just see this is going, I mean, Charlie Kirk's dead. What else is new? We're going to have another assassination before too long, and we'll get all mad, and nothing will change. And maybe I am starting to perhaps come over a little bit to the Steve Bannon way of thinking that we better do something while we got power, because sooner or later we're going to lose it, and then they're going to kick the shit out of us. Maybe we ought to start kicking the shit out of that. Legally, of course, I mean, we can charge people with crimes with middling evidence. We can do that and risk losing the public opinion battle just to punish. In other words, the process itself is punishment enough. The left did that enough to Donald Trump, where they just dragged him into court for, 18 straight months and just beat the shit out of him. And that had an effect, I think, on Trump. How could it not? It didn't. I don't know it helped them win the election. They certainly didn't win the election. I think it probably hurt them at the election box. But they got to beat the hell out of Donald Trump. And they also, a part of that we don't look at is a deterrent effect. That how many of our good people are stepping forward because of that? Well, none. Quite the opposite. A lot of good people are probably looking at the system right now going, I don't want to be involved in that. I mean, I'm going to be, I'll be under attack 24/7 if I throw my hat into the ring. If I say I want to get involved, I want to speak about free markets and the power of Jesus Christ and capitalism, well, you're going to get destroyed to the extent that the lawyers in the Democrat Party and the national media can destroy you, and they can. And do you have the power, the deep pockets of a Donald Trump to withstand that kind of attack? Well, of course not. So a lot of good people on our side step back and go, I don't want to be involved. That is the hidden effect of the lawfare that they unleashed on Trump. Well, perhaps we could do that too. Maybe we could scare some of their people onto the sidelines by putting some of their people into the lawfare system. And that's where Bannon is coming from. That we need to start exercising some force here while we have it. And not just saying, well, we're just going to try to be friends and we're going to treat them as we ourselves would wish to be treated. The next time around when they get into power, it's going to be worse than it's ever been before. I predict that they're going to make the Biden administration look like some kind of benevolent democratic force. You're going to be talking some good old-fashioned hard school communism, and they ain't going to be asking, they're not going to be saying please, they're going to be kicking ass, and it's our asses they're going to be kicking. So we better be aware of that. All right, I don't know what else to talk about. Like I said, I'm a little discouraged today. We'll have to watch Jimmy Kimmel. No, we won't, because we don't care. Tell your lies, Jimmy. It's just another day ending in Y. I'm Eric Arnold. I believe in free speech. We'll talk again.